Good morning and welcome to Missoula Real Estate Today. This is Denny Bedard. Missoula Real Estate Today is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Diane's been working with buyers and sellers in the Missoula market for over 25 years and shares her insights on the local housing market. Along with her trusted partners, Diane provides complete service for your real estate transaction and brings us guests who provide useful information on industry-related topics and trends. And now, Missoula Real Estate Today on News Talk, KGVO. Hey, welcome to the first weekend in June and June's first Missoula Real Estate Today. So nice to have you with us this weekend. Show is presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate, and Diane has furnished us a guest. I think you said he'd been on once before. Mark Wynn of Winwood Flooring. Welcome back to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. How long have you been a hardwood flooring guy, and what led you to start Winwood Flooring?
I've been doing hardwood flooring for a little over 11 years now, and I've just always been interested in kind of the building industry and sort of a creative person. So I just sort of elevated towards that, and
Right.
I had an opportunity to work for another company several years ago, and got my sort of cut my teeth working for him, and eventually got the equipment to start my own business.
That's right. So you're Mark Wynn. You put the win in Winwood Flooring, right?
Yeah,
There
something
we
like
go.
that.
And you're a Bona Certified Craftsman. What does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so Bona sort of has a program where they handpick top-level professionals to represent the company, and we have to go through training at their facility and sort of abide by the industry's best practices. So that was something that I decided to go forward with and have a partnership with Bona.
Was that a pretty rigorous process? Did they make you earn your keep on that one?
Yeah, it was fun actually. I mean,
Huh.
it was about a 4-day thing where and they kind of cater to us really well, take us out to lunch, and treat us really good. So it was actually a fun experience. But we learn a lot, and we do have to do a lot of hands-on training, and there's book work and testing and all that kind of thing. But it was a good time and worthwhile.
Did you have to travel to a specific location
Yeah,
to do all that?
we went to Denver
Okay.
to do that. Yeah.
All right. Well, besides Bona Certified Craftsman, what are some of your services that you feel kind of set Winwood Flooring apart?
Yeah, and like I said, I guess I'll maybe go into part of what a little more in depth to what it means to be a Bona Certified
Sure.
Craftsman. So first off, to be in the program, we kind of have to be nuts for the Bona products, and I've been using their stuff for over 10 years now, and I'm really familiar with how it works. And another part is that we have to use dust collection, and so we've had, since I've started, we've been using, high-powered vacuum systems to collect the dust from our sanding equipment, and we use it with all of our sanding equipment, from belt sanders to edgers to buffers to palm sanders. So that's kind of a big part about being, and it's a requirement to be in their program. So I think that's really important, to a lot of homeowners to know that they can have a dustless sanding experience, and using this kind of equipment creates 99.8% less dust than traditional sanding methods.
Wood floor. Oh, by the way, we are talking to Mark Wynn of Winwood Flooring here on Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate. Mark, wood flooring. Let's start with recoating. We'll get to refinishing, but wood floor recoating for existing floors. What is the process?
Yeah, so I guess I'll say the first thing, if you're wondering whether or not you need to recoat or refinish, one of the first things to look for is whether, if you start to see dullness in the sheen of your floor, I think that's one of the first signs that you want to look for. And also keep in mind, I mean, most manufacturers of finishes recommend doing a pretty frequent maintenance coat interval, 1 to 3 years. That's not to say that your finish coat won't last you 20 years. But everybody has different amounts of use. You might live on a dirt road and bring in a lot of grit and debris.
Sure.
And you might need to recoat more frequently. Or if you're a commercial situation that gets a lot more traffic, you may want to recoat more frequently. But basically, it's a pretty simple process, or it can be. It can be more complicated as well, but the best scenario would be we just come in and we do a light sanding to the finish coat, and we clean it really well, and then just apply a new coat of finish. And using the Bona products, it's nice because they dry really fast. They're very low VOC, so you can, and they cure very fast. So in most situations, we get a coat on in a day, and then 24 hours later, you're back on the floor. So
I imagine you get some surprised customers, don't you? They never thought it could quite look quite that good again when you're done.
definitely, yeah, and even with refinish especially, but even with recoats, I mean, we did several years ago. We did the Locksaw Lodge, and this goes into a more in-depth kind of recoat that we do, where they have a restaurant in there, and over
Right.
years of traffic, the restaurant, they created sort of residue paths around the floor, and we used Bona's recoat system, where we actually do a wet sand to the existing finish using a special product called Remove, using an abrasive buffer brush. And through this process, I mean, we were able to remove like 95% of the black that was just embedded in the finish from years of, having a restaurant. And I mean, they were just blown away at how well it worked. And,
Yeah.
to this day, they're still working on it, and it's going good. So, yeah, it's pretty impressive, when you have the right tools and products, what you can accomplish.
I'm glad you brought that up, the Locksaw Lodge, because before we went on the air, Mark and I were just kind of prepping a little bit, going over a few questions I was going to ask and whatnot. And one thing I did not mention to you that I always like to ask is success stories. So there's a great example, but I may get back to that in 15 or 20 minutes. So
Sure.
you'll have to be thinking of another one in the 1 or 2 or however many
All right.
in the back of your mind. You also offer refinishing. Now, how does that differ from the recoating process that you just described?
Yeah. So a good sign that you need to do a refinish is simply finish wear through. So if you have sort of graying or dark spots in the floor where the finish has been worn through down to wood, typically we would need to do a sand and refinish, and sometimes people will ask, well, can you just sand this spot? And the answer is no, because when you use new sealing and finishing products, if you were to try and do that, it's just not going to match in color.
Oh, no.
So, yeah, you typically, that's what we look for. If someone calls me on the phone, I say, are there gray spots in the floor, or dark, spots where it looks like the finish is worn through? And that's the best indication. Another scenario is if, a lot of times people call and they just bought a new house and they pulled up the carpet, but they're going to remove some walls. So frequently we're patching in where walls were removed, and we can sort of splice in and make it look like there was never a wall there. And in that case, if you're doing any kind of board replacement, it does require to do a full sand and refinish
Sure.
to make it all look good.
Is that prepping process before you do all that? Is that a pretty tedious thing?
It can be,
Mhm.
yeah.
I imagine square footage and just how worn and things like that. There's a lot of variables there.
It's really mostly the prep. I mean, if we're doing what I call a splice, I mean, everybody calls it something different, but you have to remove some of the existing boards and then sort of finesse your new pieces in. And it's not that it's hard as much as it is just kind of tedious and time consuming, but
Yeah.
it's a part of what we do. And I mean, I'd say 50% of our work is just that, people buying a house and doing additions into rooms, or they might do an addition on the house where they want us to, continue the floor into, and that's pretty common.
Right. Now, of course, hardwood floors, that's not new, but typically if someone is considering replacing, carpeted areas with a wood floor, but they're not quite sure, they've had carpeting all their lives, but they're at least thinking about your products, what are some of their usual objections or concerns about that?
Yeah, I think the one that comes to mind first is noise. So I guess if you're on a second level in a house, and someone's thinking about putting a wood floor, they're concerned, is it Is it going to be noisy for
Right.
whoever's in the downstairs? And what I say to those people is, you could look at doing a glue down install. And so if you and typically if we were doing that, I would go with like a wider width flooring just because it would go a little faster. But if we do a trowel spread glue down install in an upper level, then you get a decibel reduction of like negative 75 decibels.
How? What's
With
involved?
so you would use a V-notched trowel, and so
Okay.
because it's V-notched, there's little peaks in the adhesive, and so that adhesive sort of acts as a buffer to the wood floor. So when you're walking on it, it's not necessarily touching the subfloor and
Got
kind of
it.
creating noise. It just gives you a buffer zone, is how I would describe it.
And the depth of that,
There's different sizes. One of them's that Bona has is a 1,500 gram, but it's close to probably 5/16 in depth.
okay.
Of
So
the
not very thick at all.
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's one objection you got to overcome once in a while. Any others or any other concerns that customers have?
I guess in terms of talking someone into carpet talking someone into hardwood versus carpet.
Right.
I think it's pretty easy to say. I mean, hardwood is just going to be easier to clean. It's going to last you longer. I mean, a hardwood floor should last the lifetime of the home, really, because you can sand it. If a skilled sander sands it, you should be able to get 5 or 6 sands out of a wood floor with a 1/4-inch wear layer. Okay. So I think that's a huge advantage, is you can invest some money once and then you're done. You don't have to buy another wood floor, ever. And you always have the option to do an update. I mean, if you want to do a sand and refinish, you can decide, I want to stain this time. Or you can decide you want to use a different sealer and get, a slightly different natural color out of it.
Right.
And you just have a lot of options. And I think, it's a really good investment in that sense. And, and if you're someone who likes, the feel of carpet, you can buy rugs, you
Sure.
know. And then if somebody spills something on the rug, you buy a new one, and you don't have to pay somebody to install new carpet. So
Right. This is Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate and my guest, Mark Wynn of Winwood Flooring here in Missoula. You know what I'm always intrigued about, Mark? I don't know what it is, and maybe you can help me out, but it's that sense of space that wood floors create compared to carpet.
mm-hmm.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah. And I hear a lot, people will ask, well, is it going to make the room look bigger if I go with a wider width or a narrower width in here? And I think, to me, it's kind of in the eye of the beholder, but, there might be something to it. I think if you go with like a narrow width flooring, it's going to possibly make a room look a little bit bigger, or if you go with the wider width, it might make it look a little smaller, but
Yeah.
I think that's one of those things that, I mean, I hear people debate a lot that I'm not really sure what my opinion is.
Yeah.
But I think it's something to consider.
Yeah. Well, the home we moved into, we'd lived in the Bitterroot for years, finally moved into Missoula about 1.5 years ago, and the home we moved into is some of it carpeted, like the living room and the bedrooms, but the kitchen and the hallways and all of that,
Mm-hmm.
really nice hardwood flooring. And I just kind of thought, wow, that's it just has that feel of I don't know, but I like it. I mean, I'm saying I like that look, but I just could never quite figure out in my head exactly why that would be.
Yeah.
Yeah. Getting back to the finishing as far as recoating and refinishing processes and things like that. Materials that you use, you can alleviate concerns about stinky stuff, right?
Yeah, sure. So there's a few different options. When it comes to finishes, and Bona actually has 5 different water-based finishes in their line. They also have an oil-based, which is solvent, a solvent-based product, and those are what would be a little more on the stinky end. But they have several water-based finishes, sort of ranging in durability, starting with Bona Mega is considered residential grade. and it's a single component, really easy to use product. And then the next step up from that would be Bona Mega HD, and it's what's called a cross-linking water-based urethane, and it just has a booster that you mix a little water with, then you mix it with the base, and it's a little more durable than Mega. They consider that better in quality. And then the next step up from there would be the commercial finishes, which would be Traffic and Traffic HD. And both of those are catalyzing water-based urethanes. So they have a hardener that we add to it. And this makes the end product very chemically resistant and wear resistant and hard. So I'd say most of our jobs, I just talk people into using either Traffic or Traffic HD because I think you're spending enough money on the sand and finish process that you don't really want to go cheap on the finish. But there are some situations. I mean, if somebody's selling a house, you could always use something like Mega or Mega HD, and then you can always overcoat it with Traffic later. So I think that, that's something that you could go either way on.
I asked you at the start of the program some of your background and how you came to be with Winwood Flooring and everything, and that you're a Bona Certified Craftsman, and you talked about that and what was all involved in becoming that. I guess I really didn't ask you too much about that company, Bona itself. How did they come to be such, not to get too far off track here,
Right.
but how did they come to be such a powerful player in this industry?
I think they just have fantastic marketing and, really great customer service. And, I mean, the company's been around for a very long time. I don't know if I could quote the year it began exactly, but I know that when they began, they were a distributor-only company. And so if you were going to buy Bona products, you had to go through a Bona distributor.
Right.
And recently, or fairly recently, they got into the retail market with floor cleaning products. And, I think they did it because some of their competitors were doing that and just to sort of assist in their branding. So they've put out, I think that's done a lot for their branding and just selling floor cleaning kits, cleaning solutions, and things of that nature.
Yeah.
But I'm sure there's more pieces to it that I'm not mentioning, but that's what comes to mind.
Yeah, gosh, no, it sounds like a terrific success story. This is Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate, and my guest, Mark Wynn of Winwood Flooring here in Missoula. Floor textures, Mark, that distressed wood appearance. I think that's the word I was going for, that distressed wood appearance. I love that. Is that something that's gaining in popularity, and what all's involved there?
Yeah, I think, I would say it's gaining in popularity.
Did I use the right word?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, I was going to say it's probably been popular for a while, but
Yeah.
I think it's always gaining popularity. One cool thing that I'll mention, Bona came out with a product for a machine that they make called the Power Drive, and it's really cool. It's a planetary drive buffer. So basically it's a traditional buffer might just be a 16-inch wheel, right? Well,
Yeah, sure.
this has 4 6-inch pads on it, and it's really great for sanding, but they also came out with a wire brush attachment for it. So we can stick wire brushes on this buffer, and so we can do on-site wire brushing to wood floors. And so that's a pretty cool new service that we have the ability to do. And basically what wire brushing does is it removes the soft grain at the surface of the wood to give it kind of a natural weathered look or distressed look. And it's cool because it allows us to do some other custom staining techniques. Like one is cerusing, and so that's a fancy sounding word for creating a two-tone effect with the wood floor. So we can use like a penetrating hard wax oil stain, and we can do one color for the base color, and then we let that dry sufficiently, and then we can come over it. So let's say I start with a dark brown,
Right.
then I can or a charcoal or something like that to create contrast, I can come over it with a frosty white color. And so we can get and basically the second coat will get into those porous low spots that you created with the wire brush, and it gives you a stark contrast between colors. And it's just it's a really custom look, and that's, I think, trending in the industry. I mean, a lot of factory floor makers are doing it. I mean, there's all kinds of pre-finished manufacturers coming out with that kind of two-tone look.
Mm-hmm.
But I think it's really cool that we're able to do that on site also, and really, you have more options because
Yeah.
Bona has a whole line of like the hard wax oil stains that we can choose that we can use, and there's several different combinations you can blend and then do like the two-tone applications, and there's no limit to the customization.
And the machine, I think you said it had 4 6-inch.
Yeah, 4 6-inch pads
compared to a standard 1/16.
Yeah, and it's the interesting thing, or what makes it really effective. And I don't know if I'll describe this well, but basically, as this buffer wheel orbits, each pad is driven by a cog gear, and it counter orbits. So it works. It also works really great for just our sanding process with this kind of buffer. We're able to get a really flat outcome in the floor, and then we can just switch it out with these wire brush that are a hook and loop that we just stick onto the bottom of those pads, and that's what creates that textured effect.
When you were, I should have asked you this when you were talking about the low odor finishes that you use, but then I got off on Bona, and then I got off on distressed wood. Other environmental concerns in your business that have come up obviously over the years, things that you need to address now that you can help alleviate some people's concerns about that.
Yeah, and I think I may have failed to answer with the finishes. They all are Green Guard certified. Bona's Traffic HD has the highest environmental safety designation. It's Green Guard certified safe for children in schools, so it can be used in schools. And so I think that's a big thing with their finish. And also the glues that we were kind of talking about earlier, they're silane based glue, and they're 0 VOCs with the adhesive also. And then I think going back to just the floor sanding, is the other significant environmental concern is the dust, and having airborne dust is not healthy. You don't want to breathe it. Our employees don't want to breathe it, and the homeowners don't. So, you kind of get the whole package when you hire somebody who's a Bona certified craftsman in that sense, because we're going to be using the best products, and you don't have to be concerned about the effects from like a solvent based product.
What are some of the trends, Mark, that you're seeing in hardwood floors? Are there certain looks, certain styles, types of wood, things like that customers seem to be leaning toward?
Yeah, I think it's kind of all over the place. I mean, I'm always a fan of using North American hardwoods. I think the trouble with going with an exotic floor is that we live in Missoula, Montana, and if you get wood that came from China or South America, it's going to react differently. So, I encourage people, if you want a hardwood floor, shop with somebody who does hardwood floors and sells hardwood floors only. I think that's the best option. And but as far as wood species, we do a lot of red oak, white oak, quarter rift sawn white oak is a very dimensionally stable option. We install a lot of hickory, walnut, cherry, ash, maple. We do in this market. It's pretty popular for people to want circle sawn fir and larch. And the nice thing about that is it is harvested locally and milled locally. And there's several mills in the area that you can supply this from, and it's really affordable, and I think I recommend it frequently just because I think it's one of the cheapest ways to get into a custom floor, because it's textured with circular saw blade markings, right? So there's not as much sanding involved, so the cost for us to sort of prep it and coat it is a little bit less, and you also get that they typically come in a varying width, and I think that's another thing that's popular and trending.
Yeah,
is using a varying width floor as opposed to just a singular width, and it makes it look makes for a more random appearance, and I think a lot of people like that.
All right. This is Missoula Real Estate Today, presented by Diane Beck of Windermere Real Estate, and this week's guest, Mark Wynn of Winwood Flooring. Also got to say thank you to some of Diane's marketing partners that helped bring you the show. Rob Fleming with Mann Mortgage, Miles Link of Opportunity Bank of Montana, and Carol Blodgett from MakeItMissoula.com. Mark, you talked early in the show about how pleased you were and the customer when you did the lock saw lodge. Any other success story like that Winwood Flooring is especially proud of that you've done recently?
Oh, shoot.
Or maybe just any time, not recently, but...
Well, I mean, we did, we had fun. We put in the floor at Saki Tumi Sushi. So, and that was a really fun project. Worked with the Jackson Contractor Group, and, it's always fun when you get to do a floor for somebody that's a little more in a more high-profile area in business. And,
sure.
We did several years ago, we installed a floor at the Oxford. So it's if you're looking for an example of a floor that needs some maintenance, I mean, that's one, but that place gets a lot of traffic, and it's a cherry wood floor, but it's still looking beautiful. But, there's an example of one that's ready for a sand and refinish.
Good.
But, those are the two, that kind of come to mind.
All right. Well, believe it or not, we're down to like the last couple minutes. I better ask you, is there anything that we have not covered that you definitely want to get out there today?
I've got one more thing. So
sure.
We also offer a professional wood floor cleaning service, and so Bona has a tool they call the Bona. Oh shoot! Now I'm losing it. It's we can do professional deep cleaning with power scrubber. There it is.
There we go.
There's a lot of names that sometimes you forget, but so they have this really nice floor cleaning product, and basically it's a wet vacuum. It's got a couple of cylindrical brushes in the center, and then there's vacuum connected squeegees on the edge, and it's a compact little unit. You can see in this picture, but the audience can't. But at any rate, this is made specifically for cleaning wood floors, and it's going to be safe for the floor finishes on the wood floor, and that's really important. And the big thing that I like about the scrubber, as opposed to other cleaning methods, is it's because it's vacuum connected, rather than sort of pushing the dirty water around the floor. It's sucking it all off. So it's really great about removing residues that kind of build up on the floor over time, or dirt that gets embedded into the finish. I mean, I've watched this with these squeegees. They'll literally extract dirt from the finish, and I think that's really effective, a really effective way to clean floors. And even if you do it annually, it's going to help your daily cleaning just go a little easier, because it works so well with getting the residual stuff off the surface.
Terrific. Well, before we wrap it up, contact information. How do we find you? How do we get a hold of you? What's the best method?
Yeah, you can look us up at winwoodflooring.com.
With two N's in there, I know.
That's right, WINNWOOD flooring.com. My email is winwoodflooring@gmail.com, and phone number 406-207-5331.
Mark Wynn, Winwood Flooring. Thanks for coming on Missoula Real Estate Today. Great job.
All right. Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to Missoula Real Estate Today. We hope you found this morning's information to be helpful. If you have any suggested topics for any future Missoula Real Estate Today programs or any questions about buying or selling, contact Diane Beck with Windermere Real Estate. Email dianebeck@realtor.com or visit her website homesinmissoula.com. That's homesinmissoula.com. We'll see you next time on Missoula Real Estate Today.